Welcome to the Cats Pod. This is Ben Christians, joined once again by my super energetic co-host, Eric Lauver, just bringing the energy today.
Let's go.
All of the energy.
Let's go.
We got one game to talk about. I mean, there was a game played.
Yeah.
And then there's gonna be another game played, I heard, in like a couple of weeks. And then we'll have some happy stuff to talk about with the Cats. So.
Yeah.
Eric, you want to talk to us about what happened between the Bison and the Bears?
Well, to be totally honest, it was not a very good game. Pretty much all the way through it. Not a lot of points scored. I mean, North Dakota State, they kicked 3 field goals, and then they finally scored a touchdown right at the end to send it to overtime. That was it. 3 field goals and a last-minute touchdown. Montana scored 10 points on offense. They scored an early touchdown, kicked a field goal, missed one for sure field goal. Then Junior Bergen does Junior Bergen things and takes one to the house. But Montana, in regulation, only scored 10 points on offense. And they missed the extra point on the...
If you are a fan of the offensive side of the ball, this was not your game to watch. No. I mean, there's exciting plays. Like, it's always exciting when Junior Bergen does his Junior Bergen things. Like, that's always fun to watch. Yeah. But it's like, that is, 10 seconds out of the entire game that are entertaining?
Exactly.
Until overtime?
Honestly, I am surprised NDSU didn't score more points. That very first drive... They marched it all the way down the field and then had to kick a field goal. I mean, it was a chip shot field goal. It was super, super close to being a touchdown and everything. And then Montana does the same thing right at the beginning of the second quarter, marches it all the way down. But honestly, the defense has definitely prevailed in this one. Okay. And the offenses were poo-poo.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the way you want your offense to look going into a national championship game against the Jackrabbits.
No.
It is not what you're looking for. And shout out to the North Dakota State defense for holding Eli Gilman to 49 yards, because that is impressive.
Yeah, and, that includes overtime. It was less.
Altogether.
But once again, the difference in this game is Junior Bergen. No one else made as big of a difference as Junior Bergen does. He makes incredible catches. He is maybe honestly a top 10 punt returner in the entire nation, including FBS. I mean, when the guy, he just doesn't fall down. I mean, his balance on his feet through contact is incredible. Like, you can hate the Grizzlies as much as you want to, but you have to respect Junior Bergen, and it still kills me that he's not a cat.
Yeah.
Just watching him play.
He plays like somebody we would love to have on the team for sure. And it's just, what is it with the Grizz and it seems like they always have that return guy.
Yeah.
That's always insane. From Mark Mariani on.
Oh, man, it seems like they always have one. And I mean, everybody knew Junior Bergen was special coming out of high school. That was not a revelation.
A shocker. Everybody was expecting this from him for sure. But he's lived up to the hype, which you don't see. You see a lot of times where it goes the opposite direction. So you do have to give credit when somebody does live up to the hype.
Right. And so he's the one X factor. The other X factor is the crowd. I mean, honestly, the crowd won that game for the Grizzlies as much as Junior Bergen did. I just lost count of the false starts NDSU had. It was a bunch. 4, maybe even 5. It was a ton of them. And they did 2 of them were back to back.
Yeah.
I mean, the crowd was just destroying those guys. But, I mean, in reality, neither quarterback for either team played spectacularly well. I mean, Clifton McDowell had a few runs here and there, but really, really inefficient. Really inefficient.
Stat lines for both the quarterbacks are very, not great.
Well, and you want to talk about NDSU, Cam Miller played more, but Cole Payton had just as much. I mean, he was just as big of a factor in this game. He scored that touchdown in overtime. Ran for Kind of like one play Scottrade, took it one play right to the end zone, scored. But
the best way to avoid the crowd is to score when you're not close to the crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the best way to avoid the noise.
Yeah.
Score from the 30 instead of scoring from the 3.
Yeah. And, once again, I mean, Junior Bergen threw a freaking touchdown in overtime that got deflected by a Bison player, and Keelan White still caught it. I mean, Junior Bergen is just... The Grizzlies ought to be pretty happy they're going to the national title game, because if they would have lost that, there's no way Junior Bergen stays at an FCS school. You can claim loyalty all you want. That kid's going to Texas. That kid's going to... I mean, he's going to a real school and going to get legitimate playing time, whether it's just, automatic kick return, punt return, no matter what.
It's crazy that just as many points pretty much were scored in overtime of this game as the entirety of regulation.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's put it this way. You can't score 16 points in regulation and expect to beat South Dakota State.
Yeah,
that is
going to be
fact.
a tough day. That is going to be a tough day for you if you're going to try and make that work.
No. And Montana has a very good defense. They're probably 95% of the reason the score ended up the way it did. Their defense was flying around. They got some dogs up there. They never seen anyone like South Dakota State before.
This quote-unquote amazing team defense that the Grizzlies have been playing that I hear so much about, that's definitely going to have to show up if you want to stand any chance against SDSU. They're going to hope that the whole is more than the sum of its parts for anything to happen and go the Grizzlies' way when they go to Frisco. It's just a weird kind of anomaly of a game, it feels like. Looking at the stats, it just doesn't really add up. And it was kind of like who wanted to win this game at the end.
I've seen lots of arguments at the end of that. I think it was the second overtime period. It was rule of the law probably called correctly in the end zone, because it was a very strange formation they ran out there. They definitely got cute with it. And the guy throws the ball, and his intended target is laying on his back in the end zone. They got tangled up. Grizz defender pulled him down, and judgment call basically. But
it's like, is it incidental contact, or is this pass interference kind of a situation?
Basically, what the rule is that if the offensive player engages the defensive player. Isn't technically liable for what happens or something like that, or something along those lines. I don't know. Watching it live, it was like, how did they not call that?
Yeah.
But then you watch it back and it's like, okay, I don't want to say anything.
I don't know if anybody listening to this can tell, but we are both not lawyers.
Yeah.
We don't know how to build up an argument for this, or really what the rule is in general. So.
But moral of the story. This game for Ben and I was the lesser of two evils.
I guess.
Is that a good way to put it?
It could be like the lesser of two evils kind of one, just because, I mean, at least a lot of our friends are happy. We can be happy for them being happy. But, I don't know. I just hope that they stop sending me text messages. I'm like, Montana State has been out for weeks, and I guess we brought this on ourselves. We did. We talked a lot throughout the season, and also we started this stupid podcast, and it's made it to where we are now targets to all of our friends and family. People who never talk to me outside of when I see them in person are now hitting me up and actively talking trash to me, and I was not ready for that part of this. I was not ready.
It's true.
That's the worst part about us building more listeners. Is now I realize who all actually listens to this thing. And I'm like, I never thought you would.
It was within 10 minutes, not even 5 minutes of the game being over. I already had 3 texts from Grizz fans. Mm-hmm. This is how you beat North Dakota State in overtime.
It's always the most intelligent argument you get, It's always really well thought out and, no, it's not juvenile at all.
The Grizzly fan base really comes out of their shell when they start winning games. For sure.
Yeah.
just to a point where it makes them intolerable.
Pretty much. It's like, where were you a month ago?
Exactly.
2 months ago.
When your team was trash, there was not one person. Everybody was calling for Houck's head, saying this team is headed into the trash can.
We were the only ones on Houck's side.
We were.
And now everybody's jumping on our bandwagon.
Exactly.
They're jumping on our bandwagon, and they are finally supporting Houck for the coach that he is. And we were behind him 100% the entire time.
Yeah, and he's going to go back to losing to the Cats next year. So
yeah, I mean, I'd say keep him around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Let's run it back again.
He's built a culture there.
He has a face that I want to beat in a football game.
It's that nose, man. That nose it's like a vulture's beak. It just falls right off his face.
It falls the cliff.
Yeah.
The Houck cliffs. It's like the White Cliffs of Dover.
It kind of reminds me. You remember that old Robin Hood cartoon movie, and they got the little birds that are the guards. That's what Bobby Houck reminds me of. One of those stupid little birds.
You're just running through the Sherwood Forest. All of a sudden, you run up on the king. What is the king? King Richard the Lionhearted or whatever. You run up on his castle, and all of a sudden, you just see a bunch of Houcks there, like a whole Houck family, the whole family of Houcks.
You can really tell who they are by that nose. It's very.
They would be defending the castle too. That is like a great metaphor there. You know,
yeah.
As the Bobcats, we are wheeling and dealing out there for the people, but he's trying to protect like the powers that be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Montana is headed to the championship.
Yeah, they get to go to Frisco. Now, all the times that I've yelled at Frisco at Grizz fans is going to come right back at me. I think I'm going to just avoid bars in general because I know how many times people are going to yell Frisco at me now.
Yeah.
It's really, it's kind of the only plus side of us not winning Cat Grizz is I'm not going to try to talk trash back. You know, because if we would have won Cat Grizz, I would be trying to say something right now as they head to the national championship, and I would probably just get put in my place like I was doing to Grizz fans a few years ago.
Yeah. I think, man, it's tough because, like, you want to support all these Montana guys. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
But the fans just make it impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we absolutely would love to see Braxton Hill and Levi Janicaro and, you know, some of those guys, Junior Bergen, those Montana guys that you'll love to see them succeed, and then their fans basically just taunt you 24/7 when you don't even have to say anything. You actually don't even have to be in the same state.
I just exist.
Yeah.
I just exist.
They just
people
come right
throw
after
hate
you.
at me.
They just come right after you.
Like, I'm just here trying to survive, you know?
Yeah. But, anyway, Montana is heading to play Big Brother, South Dakota State, the granddaddy, the daddy of them all.
Could you have more of a tale of two games in the semifinal? Two more opposite games.
Gosh.
Could they be more polar opposites?
No.
Where you got 59-0 in one and you have a double overtime win in the other one?
Yeah.
Like, that is the biggest chasm I have ever heard of in two semifinal games.
I mean, South Dakota State looked unstoppable. I mean, we talked about it, but, dude, Albany's legit.
Mm-hmm.
And they shut them out, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Their backups shut them out.
Yep.
Continued on with the
string
shutout. Yes.
Shut them out. Yeah.
And they put up 59 points. I guess technically they never did pull Gronowski. At least I never saw it. It would have had to been late.
I don't think so. I can't remember if they did or not. It feels like that game was a year ago.
It does. It does not feel like it was last weekend.
No, it was not just a few days ago. It was a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain of that. I couldn't believe that we had recorded on Friday night, and when I was looking at our stats for this, I was like, we recorded 4 days ago? It wasn't like 40 days ago that we last recorded? I just missed the fans, you know? Missed talking to the fans.
No kidding. And it just sucks that we have to talk to our favorite people in the world, Cat fans, about Grizzly football.
And we're talking about how good their players are and stuff. It's like, it's grating. It's nails on a chalkboard, for sure.
Yeah, and it's like purposely stepping on a tack.
Yeah. Over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies are good. Ow! But, no, we're going... Bottom line is Montana's got to put up more than 10 points on offense.
Oh, yeah.
They will not even come. They won't sniff South Dakota State if they put up 10 points.
Yeah.
Clifton McDowell has to play like a legit quarterback, a legit starting quarterback. Like you can't do what he has done the last few weeks and sniff South Dakota State. They've never. This defense has not seen wide receivers and a running back quite like what they're going to see in South Dakota State. I mean, Isaiah Davis is legit. Mm-hmm. The guy is a freak of nature. I mean, he basically is Julius Davis. Yeah. He's that kind of good.
Every one of their pieces on the Grizz are going to have to play their best game of the season.
Oh, I mean...
at least matching whatever their best game so far was this year, they all collectively need to have that game in the championship to make this happen.
I mean, in South Dakota State's offensive line, their accolades could rival Montana State's. I mean, there's first-teamers, second-teamers all over that offensive line. They're bullies. They're big-time bullies.
Oh, yeah.
And Montana, they do have a relatively undersized defensive line. Yeah. You know, their defense is creative, which is what helps them a lot. They have very, very creative blitzes. But they're not going to be able to rush 4 and get to Gronowski. Plus, Gronowski, can you think of one quarterback the Grizz have played that's quite like Gronowski? Because Gronowski is basically Tommy Mellott if Tommy was bigger. He's basically so if you combine Sean Chambers' body with Tommy's ability, you know, that's Gronowski.
Yeah, it has to stack up some way there because he just does seem like a different animal. It doesn't match up super well with any kind of defensive line.
No.
To be playing against him, and just because of also the passing ability that he brings to the games.
Yeah, and I mean he's just extremely talented. It just is hard for me to see a path to victory for the Grizzlies, but I've been saying that for weeks, and they keep on winning. Mm-hmm. But South Dakota State's another bear. I mean, South Dakota State is leagues better than North Dakota State. I mean, they beat the brakes off of North Dakota State. It wasn't close.
It was almost a bad game to watch.
It was.
Like, it was something that you don't see that often, especially in rivalry games.
Yeah. Between
those two. And it definitely felt like a passing of the torch in a lot of ways during that game.
Yeah. You got that roster handy for South Dakota State?
I'm trying to find it right now, but they're...
No, it's going to be interesting because South Dakota State has a high-octane, very productive offense. I mean, very few games this season did they score less than 20 points. One, maybe? I think the Southern Illinois game, they scored less than 20, maybe?
I don't even know if it was that. It feels like they scored... You're saying scored under 20?
Right.
Yep, Southern Illinois, 17-10.
Yeah.
That surprises me, honestly.
But they still scored more than 10 points on offense.
Yeah, that is true. They did score more than 10.
And the reason I say that is because you cannot count on special teams every game. The Grizzlies have been able to, but you can't do that every single game.
I mean, Villanova limited them a little bit in the playoffs, at least for recent football. They did, but they definitely came out on a warpath against Albany, and I think they made up for everything that happened in that.
I mean, you just scroll through those scores, man. I mean, it's
ridiculous.
We held them to 20, but then, I mean, they beat North Dakota, playoff team. They scored 42 points. Mm-hmm. They beat South Dakota 37-3, another playoff team. North Dakota State, they dropped 33 points on North Dakota State. 33 points of offense in regulation.
Yep. 34 points against Youngstown State.
Shut them out.
0.
Yeah, shut them out.
Like a huge shutout for them. So it's tough to pick against this team in any way, shape, or form. It honestly makes it really tough to talk about because you're not seeing anything that... I'm not seeing anything juicy. I'm not seeing anything that changes my mind about the way that the Grizz are going to play this team.
I mean, and the thing about it, and this goes for Montana too, they've got 3 weeks to, if they even, South Dakota State, to my knowledge, did not have any injuries really. Mm-hmm. But if they had anyone banged up at all, they got 3 weeks to get healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be the best form of both teams, you would hope, that are going to meet. And, man, I mean, we looked at the betting lines, and their favorite, the betting line has come down to minus 12.5 for South Dakota State. So there is money coming in on the Grizzlies, which obviously we figured that. Mm-hmm. But, man, that seems right, doesn't it?
It seems like a good line, and it seems like a line I would play for SDSU, honestly.
Wouldn't you, if you were to guess the score of this game before, or I guess if you just saw the score without even caring at all, you'd look at it and you'd be like, 14 points, South Dakota State wins by 14.
Yeah.
Say, well,
Grizzlies scored like 28-14 or something like that.
And Grizzlies kept it close, kept it competitive at least, didn't get blown out. And I think that would be a win. Because it seems like more often than not, these natty's been blowouts.
I don't think in any game you could call, like any national championship, I don't think you can call 2 scores not a blowout.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's a one-score game and it's coming down to the end,
and
it's an exciting game for us to watch, we're going to be like, yeah, they had the game under control the entire time.
Yeah.
At 28-14, they would have controlled the pace the entire time. Montana would have shut them down a couple more times than we're used to seeing. But that's really about it.
Yeah. No, I've watched enough South Dakota State to be pretty confident in them with good reason. And Montana's playing their best football. There's no doubt about that. They're the best version of themselves right now.
Yeah.
But is it enough?
It's tough to say that it is, because the team that Montana State played against at the beginning of the year is a very different team than what is playing right now.
Extremely.
It is night and day difference. And anybody who's trying to make those comparisons, and on Facebook, FCS Fans Nation, I was seeing a lot of playing score roulette and everything, where it's like, well, this team beat this team by this much.
Yeah.
And then this team but you forget, this team beat this team by this much. And it's like, none of those things happen.
No, it doesn't matter.
There's no transitory law of football. It's not one score that transfers over to everything. I just pulled up, I finally got Mark Gronowski's stats. The dude has a 182 passer rating for the season. That's insane. And he's got 28 TDs and 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
And that's just the passing side of it. That's not even what he does rushing the ball, where he's got a ton of yards and it just looks ridiculous.
I mean, and the crazy thing about South Dakota State is just the schedule that they played. Mm-hmm. They played Montana State, playoff team.
Yep.
They played North Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota State, Youngstown, 5 playoff teams.
Yeah.
Then
Southern Illinois.
Southern Illinois didn't make the playoffs. Did they? Yes, they did. You're right. You're right. Yes, yeah. Six playoff teams. 6
playoff teams.
I was thinking Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa got bounced.
Yep.
But had a case to be made. I mean, basically 7 out of all of their games were against playoff teams or basically fringe teams.
They played 50% of the playoffs, basically, was their regular season schedule.
Right.
And then they've played 3 more playoff games, so 10 of their games this year have been playoff quality games.
Right. And Montana has played good. They played the Cats. They played Sac State. They played Idaho.
Yep.
I think that's it for playoff teams.
Yep.
So they play. I mean, they've been tested, but the team that beat Idaho, and we're going back to the transitive
the transitory property of football.
The Idaho that played UAlbany, they lost. I mean, what did South Dakota State do to UAlbany?
Yeah.
59-0. And UAlbany beat Idaho. I mean, I think you can draw something from that a little bit.
Kind of. Yeah.
But, I mean, UAlbany had to go to the Kibbe Dome and play Idaho at
But also, Albany got to a semifinal game.
True.
They had to win through a bunch of playoff teams in order to get to that semifinal. They're not scrubs by any means.
No.
Nobody gets that semifinal game
by
being lackluster.
Right. So
and, it's just these lines are just showing exactly everything we're talking about. Money line minus 512 for South Dakota State, plus 377 for Montana, which probably could have a little bit more juice on it. Sorry, MGM Grand and Caesar Sportsbook, but I don't agree with you either. You know, I don't agree with Montana Sportsbet, and I don't agree with you guys either.
Yeah. No, it's the betting line. I mean, it is just exactly what everybody thinks. I mean, unless you're a delusional Grizzly fan, the betting lines, I think, are fairly honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is like kind of a good situation for it. And it's honestly, if you're a Grizz fan, that's a great betting line. Because you can just sit down and say, oh, I get 12.5 points and I get to bet on my team.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great betting line if you're a fan and you think you're going to win the game outright.
Yeah.
Then it's an easy choice. The only one we haven't talked about is the over-under, which is sitting at 49.5 right now. I was thinking that was good until you asked me for like just a straight-up prediction on the game, and I said 28-14. And then I started doing math in my own head, and that means they don't score over 49.5 points. If it's a game like that, they don't. You know?
Right. Which I would tend to take the over. I always do tend to take the over.
It's more fun.
It is.
Nobody has fun cheering for less offense.
Right. And I feel like with the addition of Junior Bergen always being a threat on special teams, I feel like the 49.5 is probably doable.
Yeah.
But if it hits 49.5, I would expect somebody to be running score up.
Mm-hmm.
If it's competitive and the defenses are playing like we think they can, I wouldn't touch it. But if it does hit 49.5, I would expect it's probably a lopsided score.
Yeah, I would think if it's going to 49.5, SDSU's offense is...
Which if you picked up anything that I've said, I think it's going to be a lopsided score.
Yeah.
So,
we think SDSU is going to cook.
Yeah.
They're going to let them cook a little bit.
I mean, if they win by 14 points, it's probably because they just stop. They put the backups in, probably.
It's like, what was the line against Albany? It was like 22.5?
I think so.
22.5 was the line for SDSU versus Albany.
Oh, and they covered it.
And they covered it in like the first quarter. I was like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is a semifinal game. I don't know if this is a good bet. Like, I really think that SDSU has the power for it, but it's also like, I don't feel comfortable putting up 22.5 points. And then they cover it in the first quarter.
Yeah. Well, and there again, I mean, you talk about the first quarter of that game. South Dakota State's scoring on special teams also, and defense. I guess that was
every part of the ball.
Yeah.
Every part of the ball, SDSU has covered. Special teams, they're going to score. Offense, they're going to score. Defense, they're going to score. Like,
yeah,
it's just what they do, and it's what they're doing late in the season when you're supposed to be playing your best football, which is what SDSU is doing.
Yeah, and you know, going back to that Villanova game, those were terrible conditions. I mean, the wind was blowing like 40 miles an hour, and that's not, I'm not exaggerating. It was absolutely cranking.
That was the literal speed of the wind.
Yeah, you can't, I mean, it was about as bad of playing conditions as you, I mean, it was cold, it was windy, nothing, the ball did not do what it was supposed to do in the air. So I don't think you can draw anything from that close of a game, even though they still won by, 3 scores, which I guess 2 scores technically, but basically what I'm saying is when you go down to Frisco, you eliminate home field advantage for the most part. I mean, there's probably going to be a ton of South Dakota State fans.
So it matters less that South Dakota State has no fans.
Oh, I think you'll see a tale
You
of two
think
tapes here.
they're just going to show up for this game? They just didn't care about the semifinal because they knew it was going to be a blowout.
Why would you care if you know you're going to the chip?
I mean, for $7 a ticket, I keep going back to this argument over and over again.
Yes.
For $7, I'm gonna watch that game. Like, I'm gonna be there.
So South Dakota State has had since September to buy tickets, and from what I've heard over there, we have a few guys who buy bulls from us over there, and it sounds like a lot of them have been.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good turnout for South Dakota State down there. Yeah. And the Grizzlies are gonna do everything in their power to get down there. A lot of them. There's gonna be a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. But it's not Washington Grizzly. There's not going to be 26,000 Grizz fans in there in that concrete dome, or not dome, but stadium at the base of a mountain. Like, you eliminate their home field advantage. Can they still win without that?
Yeah. You're basically taking away all of the X factors outside of Junior Bergen for the Grizz.
True.
Junior Bergen is your only X factor you have left outside of the home field advantage and everything you have going for you in Missoula. The weather, all those factors with other teams, those can be on the upside for Montana. And you're taking all of that away, and you really have to just drag everything down to the bare bones of what the team is. And like I said before, if every single one of their skill players and every single one of their major guys plays their best game of the season, Montana's going to stand a chance.
Right.
But if one of those pieces doesn't show up, then they're in trouble. If Eli Gilman has a bad game, they're in trouble. If Clifton McDowell has a bad game, they're in trouble. And everybody else can play great.
And honestly, I think it's going to come down to the Grizz secondary. Mm-hmm. Can the Grizz secondary hang with what is probably the best passer they will have faced?
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
FCS seems like there's a lot of running quarterbacks. The Furman quarterback could sling it though.
Yeah.
That would be the only argument I would make to where he'd be close to Mark Gronowski for facing him.
I do think Gronowski is more accurate. I mean, you watch that South Dakota State game, dude. That guy was on it. He was on another level. He was hucking that thing way down the field and, scoring touchdowns all the time. Mm-hmm. It was every time you looked up at the TV, they were scoring again.
Yeah.
And if he's not doing it, Isaiah Davis is doing it. If he's not doing it, they got two wide receivers that are, top 10 in the FCS, especially Yankee.
Yeah.
And his twin brother's an absolute beast on defense.
Yeah. It everywhere you turn. Like, I am trying to come up with devil's advocate arguments over here.
Devil's avocado?
I'm trying to come up with the devil's avocado. And the devil's avocado is staying down in Mexico right now. I cannot come up with any solid arguments because you're just going to come back every time with how good they are, which is true. It is very true. They are very good. And I think just to make this game watchable for me, I'm going to bet the over.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, then I'll be invested in the game for one reason at least.
I think if I had to take one right now, South Dakota State minus 12.5 is looking pretty juicy to me.
Yeah.
If you just wanted to put a ton of money down and not win very much, money line all day.
Yeah, just bet that money line. If you have like a lot of disposable income, or you can just put down like $10,000 so you can make some money, like then go for it. Bet that money line. But I'm not betting with that much juice. I need to find the juice wherever it is.
Just remember, I was with you last year when I bet on this game. Remember, I got South Dakota State minus 250.
Yep.
Against North Dakota State.
Yep.
And it hit by a mile.
Yep.
It was an easy bet. This is essentially the same team. I mean, they've returned a stupid amount of starters from last year. Aside from their tight end that's killing it in Green Bay right now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the same team that has won. But they have the longest active winning streak in all of college football right now.
I think so.
It's close to, if it's not the longest one.
Can't think of anybody else that would be coming close to it, especially with the parity that's going on in FBS.
But
seems like a lot of teams have lost.
Like you said, the Grizzlies, if every single player comes out and plays the best game they've ever played, they stand a chance. They're legit. Mm-hmm. You gotta be fair.
They've got a lot of legit pieces, but all those pieces are going to have to hit at the same time.
Exactly. There can't be any liabilities on either side of the ball, no matter what. But, yeah. I think that's enough for that. I'm sick of talking about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's enough. We're good. So, we've pulled up a list of the recruits for Montana State. Now that we can go back to talking about our favorite team instead of our least favorite teams.
Yeah.
And it is impressive.
It is. It
The
really
recruiting team for Montana State is just going bananas right now, pulling people in front, left, and center. Every direction you can think of, they're coming from there. And they're transferring to us from different schools, and they're decommitting from other schools to come to us. We are a hot destination.
It is. It is a destination. And before we even get into this, I think you'll agree that we just have to shout out the coaching staff here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these guys are doing exactly what they said they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring in guys that they think are going to fit the program. And what do? They go out and get even better guys than we've ever seen come to the program.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had a lot of pretty good guys come to the program. But if you look at this list, it's flat impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the number of 3-star recruits they managed to get.
Yeah.
The fact that they, like you said, they got a guy to flip from Army, and maybe that was totally his decision. We don't know.
Do we need to apologize to the veterans for stealing him from Army? No?
Nah.
Okay, Eric doesn't want to, but I will apologize to the veterans. Sorry we stole this kid from you, Army.
But, once again, you go through this list, and every single one of them there's a major potential for impact players here.
Mm-hmm.
Major potential.
Yeah, first year impact players down the line. As soon as we get some of these major players that we have coming up, graduating, they're going to be right there to fill in the spot. And what I really like to see is how many times I'm seeing MT on this screen right now. There's a lot of Montana dudes that are coming over here, and they are joining the Bobcats, which is something that makes it even more fun to watch every weekend.
And it's just awesome that they're keeping the Bozeman kids in Bozeman. I know most Bozeman people are Cat fans and everything, but it's when it comes down to college, that plays a factor for sure, but it is nice to not see them on the Grizzly list.
Oh yeah, that is the worst. When you see one of those guys over on the Grizzly list, it is the absolute worst. Right now, for December high school additions, we have 18 people. And 1 July transfer already. I don't know how that works because July hasn't happened yet, but I'm guessing that's because the transfer portal isn't closed. I don't know if that's what that has to do with, why they call it a January transfer. But we're looking at 19 new dudes on the team already.
Yeah.
19 dudes that have some stacked talent. I know you pointed out to me before, you showed me Brendan Ross, and then I looked up his huddle tape.
Yeah.
And that is a Texas football player that just looks like a man amongst boys out there, which in Texas really means something.
He's an absolute dog. I can't wait to see what he brings. Mm-hmm. One that really stands out to me is this AJ Tenupo from, and sorry if I got that pronunciation wrong, I have no idea, but from Tacoma, Washington, one of the hotbeds seems to be for the Cats, do really good in that area, but this guy, 6'2", 295 pounds already, as a senior in high school.
That's a big dude.
He is a big dude. I mean, if you look him up, he looks like he's ready to play offensive line for a college football team.
And he obviously must have some speed since he's on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Like, and you turn a guy like that into the next Seabass.
Oh, shoot, I didn't even see that he was recruited as a DT.
Yeah, defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That is a huge defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That is somebody that is going to create some havoc in the backfield if he's 100%. Got some speed. Or just shut down any running lanes you could ever even think about walking into.
Yeah. It's when you go through this, you see names, this Key Christensen. During the North Dakota State game, he was up in the box with us.
Yeah.
And, coming off a state title with Dylan.
Yeah.
And nobody even knew that I was asking my father-in-law up there, was like, did he get an offer from the Cats? Well, it turns out it was pretty hush-hush, but heck yeah, he did.
Yeah. And also, all those guys in the box were like chirping out like state champ and everything, and trying to give him all this stuff. And that kid seemed pretty humble about it.
He was.
Like, honestly, he was sitting there and he was like smirking a little bit, and he seemed a little bit embarrassed by the entire thing. Didn't really enjoy the attention that much, but it seemed like he was a pretty humble dude.
100%.
Which you love to see, you know. And there is a lot of winning that happens over there.
Yeah.
And it can go to a lot of those kids' heads. I've seen it happen before. I went to school there, so I've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
And it's good to see people stay humble. And a lot of the people that have been successful in the program from Dillon, like your Troy Andersons, people like that, they always had that humble side to them, which is good to see.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and then we get Dalton Noble and Braden Zimmer on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. Probably two of the top 5 in the state at least. And
just joining in with that Don Joy Mafia.
Yeah.
Which we still have some culture carriers from there.
Yeah.
You know, with our dudes on the offensive line, they're going to teach them the ropes, and they'll be ready to start in like a year.
100%. No, I mean, and Dalton Noble's, I mean, he was going to Army and then ended up changing his mind and coming to the Cats, and I think he's going to be well rewarded for that. I can't wait to see him play.
Oh yeah, I think that's a huge dude as well. I mean, he's 6'4", 250. 6'4" is large. I'm 6'4" right now. I'm 6'4", 250 actually. You know, we're the same size. I forget about that. You know?
Yeah, no, it's you know, and then you brought up that transfer. That guy's good. He is very good at football, and it's kind of funny because last year our fullback, Jahari, I think that was his name, transferred to Maine.
Yeah,
that's where he came from. I wonder if something's going on that, you know, he got offered, or
we got some Maine connections going on. I think we need to lean into the Canada part of this, the Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah.
Like, I think I might show up if he really starts going off in some of these games, which he seems like a pretty solid dude. I might show up wearing a Canadian flag T-shirt to some of the games or something like that. Like I might just shout out to Quebec and start learning French again. You know.
Yeah. Another exciting one, Josh Woodbury. His dad played for the Cats.
Another alumni or another legacy dude.
Yeah.
Just coming in, and he's going to be ready day one.
Yeah. No, I'm just really impressed with the list of guys that signed their national letters of intent today.
Yeah.
It just shows you that having faith in vegan is the right call.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is out there following. He couldn't have been happy with how things ended, but he's out there doing his job, bringing in top tier talent so that, you know, we have a future to look forward to here.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what it is. I mean, we had a fantastic recruiting class last year.
Yeah.
And now we had a fantastic recruiting class this year, and it's not over.
Yep.
I mean, I was telling you before we even started this on Twitter, see 2 more guys that the Cats have offered.
It's just getting started at this point. And logging onto Instagram today and just seeing commit, just post after post.
Yeah.
Shout out to Aiden Kaplan. Captain Poop.
Yeah.
Captain Poop has already given us the follow back. I don't know if that's his Finstagram or if that's his Instagram. I might be outing this dude right now, but I thought that was the funniest thing I'd seen in a while. He has no posts on it. I just followed him, and it's a picture. You can tell it's a picture of him on his like profile picture on there, and then it's just Captain Poop 54, and I was like, that is the most like I just got out of high school thing of all time. Like, I'm sure that's like the funniest thing of all time with this friend group, but you know, that's personality that we need on the team.
It is.
Shout out to Marcus Ware. You know?
Yeah, no shit.
Just joining in with the funny dudes on the squad.
No, I think these guys are going to fit in well. I think they're going to get up here, especially the out-of-state guys, and they're going to think, you know, this is exactly what we wanted.
Yep.
They're going to get into the Cat culture. They're going to start meshing with these guys. They're going to find it seems like, you know, I think they're going to see that it's a place of learning.
Yeah. It seems like everybody finds their niche there.
This is a house of learning. You can't get away without a stepbrother
I'm
quote.
sorry, no, you can't get out. You can't get out of here with that one. But it feels like in Montana State, everybody finds their niche. Everybody finds their group of guys that they can get along with. It's not like a cliquey team, but there's a person for everybody on this squad. You know,
it's actually pronounced niche.
Niche. It's not niche.
I think what you're trying to say is quiche, and that's a food.
I mean, I am pretty hungry right now. One last thing that does not matter whatsoever, but shout out to Mason Deathman. What a name.
Heck yeah.
I hope that he is... What is he? Oh, he's a linebacker, no?
Linebacker.
But he was a quarterback in high school?
Must have been.
Must have been a quarter. Played two ways. Oh, yeah. 106 tackles, 3 sacks, and 7 interceptions. I'm going to have to ask the superintendent in Valier here if he knows anything about good old Mason Deathman, because I think he was in Brockton before he came over here to Valier.
Well, Freud Medicine Lake, is that 6-man, I think.
Oh, were they 8-man or 6-man?
Well, it's small. Definitely not 11-man.
Oh, they are 6-man, I think.
Yeah.
I think they won a state championship a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right.
6-man? Yeah, so that makes sense. When you have a lot of these 6-man and 8-man guys, they play quarterback, but also they usually end up playing defense.
Yeah.
When they get to the big show.
Yeah.
Which there's been some great players that have made that transition. So
love seeing someone from a small school get a chance.
11 for 100-meter dash.
That's not bad.
Old Mason Deathman. 6'4", 210, running an 11.440. That is a speedy dude.
He's got the size. He's got the speed. Like I said, man, I don't see how these guys don't fit right in. I mean, and you can go down the list. Ontario, Latin Henley. Also, once again, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but I mean, he's joining a running back room where how can you not be ready to do this after a short amount of time? I mean, he's joining maybe the most stacked running back room in the FCS.
Which you have to have some balls to join that running back room.
You do.
When you're sitting there and you're making your decision and you look at Montana State and you go, they have like 7 dudes right there, and you go, that's the team that I want to be on. You know, you have to have some cojones to jump in there.
Yeah. I've heard a ton of good things about this Ryan Bowles.
Mm-hmm.
I heard he's legit. Like, expect big things from this guy early. Like, he could be, from what I've heard, a day one starter.
That would be awesome.
I mean, I don't know. Of course, I don't know if he will, but...
Yeah. And that's jumping people that are already in the depth chart, but, you know, that's what you got to do as a freshman. You got to try and make your moves when you can.
Yeah, and then this Leuven's Valsen. Also, I am sorry if I butchered that. I don't know.
Leuven Valsen.
But committed as a tight end.
Yeah.
From what I hear, he's just an athletic freak. Mm-hmm. I thought that he was...
A lot of dudes getting recruited for us with that ATH next to their name.
Yeah, well, I think he was recruited as ATH, but now he's in as tight end. Yep. And so you think about our tight end room coming up. You know, we lost some pretty big pieces in that tight end room, but you got Lonergan leading it off.
Yep.
You got Hunter Province, who had a very good season as a freshman. And you got some playing time.
You got
made
Lencioni.
The most of it. Rocky Lencioni coming in. You know, he knows how to win.
Yep.
Absolutely no doubt about that. You have our transfer from Maine coming in. And now you have Leuven's...
Leuven's Valsen.
Valsen, there we go.
Leuven's Valsen.
I mean, it's looking like we may lose things, but we just bolster it. We lost some guys. We lost some guys to transfer portal on the offensive line. But what do? We bring in Dalton Noble and Hudson Weems.
Yep.
Or not Hudson Weems, sorry, he's DT. AJ Tenuco, DT. The kid from Billings, Braden Zimmer. There we go.
This is how many recruits we're talking about.
I know, gosh.
It is. We just learned all these names over the last couple weeks, and so it is impossible to keep everybody straight when you've got 5 new guys showing up in your brain every single day.
But back to what I was saying is like, how can you not be excited about this? I mean, we lose these incredible players, but then we bring in incredible players to follow right in their footsteps.
Yeah.
But we kept the guys that can teach everybody.
Yeah.
You know, our coaching staff, is gonna, they're gonna do their job, but a lot of this comes down to your veterans.
Yep.
The guys who have been there, seen that, done that.
And that's what we were talking about with the transfer portal last week. Is you got to keep guys around to build your culture, but also fill in with those heavy 3-star, 4-star, 5-star recruits wherever you can get them.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can, when you can, you take them.
Easily.
Yeah. No. Yeah, so with all that being said, once again, hats off to the coaches for putting together what I can call a fantastic recruiting class, and once again mopping the floor with the Grizzlies. Because that's what these guys are. They're better.
Yeah, they definitely responded to these tough losses we took at the end of the year, and they're going to stack up a roster that was already stacked. It's just players on players on players. How are they going to figure out? They only play with one ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of hungry players on this team coming up next year.
No doubt.
And this is also going to motivate a lot of the people on the team now.
Yeah.
You see a recruiting class like this come in, 19 players already, and it's like you're going to have to earn your spot next year.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go hard the entire offseason. It keeps people motivated, keeps people hungry.
Yeah.
Which is great to see.
It is. You got anything else, Ben?
No, I think we're good for this week.
We got to leave some. We have a couple weeks still till
we do
the national championship.
It's January 7th, right?
5th.
January 5th.
So we have some time. We got time to cover even more. So
we're gonna have at least two more episodes before the game starts.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens next week. Do you want to record next week with Christmas?
Absolutely. Oh, with Christmas.
With Christmas it might be kind of difficult.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see. We might give you guys a 1-week hiatus from hearing from us, but we will definitely hit you with a pre-championship episode so that we can cry for a while about how the Bobcats are not playing it.
And we're gonna. I know for me specifically, I'm gonna talk some mad trash about the Grizzlies. Like I always.
It's gonna be a pretty loose podcast. I feel like it might just be us going off for 45 minutes to an hour on whatever happens. But thank you to all the podcasts once again for listening. Thank you to everybody who supported us throughout this entire journey so far this year. Make sure that you rate us 5 stars wherever you are listening to this. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You can also feel free to at Eric if you ever want to have any arguments online. He always appreciates it. At Lover93, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I'll take whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm always down for a good spat.
Do you think we can get in a Twitter argument with Ty Gregorak? Do you think he's on the Twitters? Or do we have to call him up on his personal phone? That's the only way to have arguments with him.
We'll see. If Ty Gregorak wants to have an argument with me, I am 100% game for that. Let's go.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
It would.
A lot of fun for the fans. Ty Gregorak, come on the podcast. Let's talk about the transfer portal. Yeah. It'll be real fun. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Adios.
Adios.